How many of you know that children are among our most delightful troves of spiritual wisdom? Absolutely. There's no coincidence when Jesus said, "Become as a little child." That has so many levels and layers of meaning. A number of years ago, my youngest nephew was about 4 or 5, and I made another trip, spent some time with family. That particular year, I drove from Kansas City. Most of my family are in North Carolina. So if you know, North Carolina is one of those long, skinny states, and the western part's in the mountains, and the eastern part is near the ocean. So I drove through, and I got to the western part and picked up my youngest nephew, and then we drove all the way to the coast where we met the rest of the family. So here we had about an 8-hour drive in the car together, and I don't get to spend a lot of time with him, and I don't have children of my own, so at first it was a little awkward making conversation with my little 4 or 5-year-old nephew. But so we were talking. He was so excited about going to the beach and what he wanted to do, and so I asked, what do you want to do when you go to the beach? And he said some things, and he was quiet for a few minutes, and then he said, "Oh, Aunt Darlene, I know what I really want to make sure I do at the beach this time." I said, "Great, we'll do it. What is that?" "Fish from an airplane." I did the same thing. I chuckled and I said, "That would be neat if you could do that, wouldn't it? But you can't really do that." "No, yes you can. I want to fish from an airplane." I'm thinking, I'm just trying to, can you imagine a line that could go that far and it would be swinging through? And what if you hit somebody with a hook? And I've got all these things in my mind about why that's absolutely impossible. And he's just going on. I'm going to do it this time. I'm old enough now. I'm going to fish from an airplane. And I said, "Asher, I just don't think that can be done." He said, "I know it can. My daddy does it." "Your dad fishes from an airplane?" "Yes. He gets his fishing rods and he goes and he does it. I've heard him talking about it and I want to do it." "Well, when did your father, where does he go and do this?" He said, "I don't know, but he does go. He calls it fly fishing." And I I kid you not. Have you ever really wanted to do something and you thought you knew what it was going to look like, and maybe somebody said, "No, that's impossible," but there was a deeper part of you that said, "No, I'm going to fish from an airplane. I'm going to fly fish in my own way"? There is a deep longing within every person on the face of the earth. No matter who you are in your life, no matter where you are in your life, there is an inner longing. How many of you are aware, can you feel that inner longing that is always there? It doesn't matter if you're happy or if you're not happy. There is always a longing inside of you. It is evidence of your soul. And sometimes you feel it as this urge or a pulse of inspiration. It's this inspirational, anticipational longing. Sometimes it's this aching, desperational kind of longing of get me out of this place. And quite often, most of the time, it's somewhere in the spectrum. Sometimes it's very palpable and discernible, and sometimes it's almost so subtle that it's like this little background hum that you almost lose sight of until it pops up again. But no matter who you are or where you are, there is this longing inside of you, and it is saying there is so much more to you than you know right now. So turn to someone beside you and say, "There is so much more to you than you know right now." And now affirm it for yourself. "There is so much more to me than I know right now." So let's talk about the soul a little bit, because that is the impulse of the soul. We're in the domain of the soul. It is the soul that is always impelling you from the inside out, saying there is so much more to you than you know right now, and my job is for you to let it out. And sometimes we say, "Yippee," and sometimes we say, "Oh no." Well, what we need to know about the soul is, first of all, we look at our universe. When we think about our universe has two aspects, two halves, two sides of one coin. Our universe is both physical and metaphysical. We know what physical means. Physical means what we can see. The word meta, M-E-T-A, means beyond. So metaphysical means beyond the physical. Or an easy way to say it is the universe consists of that which is seen and that which is unseen, right? We know that. If the universe is this macrocosm, you are a microcosm. You and I are many universes. And so, Tony, there's a part to you that is physical and there's a part that is metaphysical. There's a part that's seen and unseen. Now, your physical body is the vehicle for the physical part of you. Your soul is the vehicle for the metaphysical part of you. And your body-soul is an agent for spirit, if you will. For you see, ultimately, your body and your soul exist as an agent for spirit. That is why master teachers such as Jesus said, "Do you not know that you are a temple of the living God? You are a vessel, you are a vehicle of this living presence, the Spirit." And how do we think of spirit versus soul? Well, I like to explain it like this. I think of if the world was one gigantic mirror, and that mirror is spirit, God is spirit. If that mirror is God, is all that is, and if you broke it into 1,000 unique pieces, and you picked up any piece, it would be a whole and complete mirror unto itself. Every little piece still would have the capacity to give a perfect reflection of whatever was before it. So you can think of that little individualized piece as our individualized unit of spirit. And our soul is that agent. For practical purposes, it's also helpful to think of your soul as having a black box. You know what the black box on an airplane does? What does it do? It records everything. Our soul is a record of everything you've ever done, said, thought, experienced, and assimilated. All the lessons that are not quite, like that mixture that you're trying to put it together, but it hasn't yet gelled. It won't come to, the oil and vinegar things of your life. Anybody else got any? Just for the life of you, you need some mustard to get those things to blend. You need an emulsifier to bring it all together. Amen? We need more mustard in our life. Maybe that's why Jesus used mustard seeds. I don't know. Where was I? Mustard is not in my notes. Black box. Just like an airplane, you can think of your soul as that black box that has a record of your unique experiences. Everything you've experienced, every lesson that you've learned, every lesson that you have not yet learned. That's one aspect of it. Another aspect of the soul is it like a blueprint. For example, an acorn contains within it the perfect blueprint for the great mighty oak tree. All that needs to happen is when the conditions are realized, the potential will be unleashed. So your soul is the storehouse of all that has ever been experienced by you, I believe in many lifetimes, but that's a personal belief. And it is also the perfect blueprint of your Christ self, your divine self, your Atman self, whatever you want to call it. It's your perfect pattern of divinity, which you already are, yet you probably have not already actualized it. We're somewhere in between the two. That's our soul. Soul in our culture is really underestimated. When we read about stories in the Bible, Moses went out into the desert. Jesus went into the wilderness. If you read other sacred scriptures, Muhammad went into the cave. Buddha went under the tree. The Native Americans teach to go out for an individual soul quest, a vision quest. Primitive societies were much more in touch with nature. Therefore, they were much more in touch with their holistic nature, their body and their soul. And they knew how to cultivate the qualities of the soul and how to go through dark nights of the soul and how to actualize the potentiality of their holiness, their divinity. In our society, we don't necessarily make room for that. And so there comes a point in time when our soul quite often will say, listen, I'm tired of all this foot dragging. It's time for you to get on some soul business. Now that's all.